Good to see you.
Good to see you. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. So, are you still in Abu Dhabi?
No, I've arrived to my home like half an hour ago.
I'm glad to hear that. So, are we about ready to start?
Yeah, sure. Let's shoot.
Okay. Any questions before we begin?
I'm all yours.
Welcome to Beyond Leadership, adopting a coaching mindset. In this series, our conversations aren't about biography or polished advice. They're about how decisions are made in the real world when the pressure is on. We'll anchor on one situation where the path wasn't obvious and explore what goes on in the mind of a leader when confronted with real trade-offs, imperfect information, and the need to move anyway. This podcast is brought to you by Peer Plaza. Human help, instantly. Alexander Masharov is the CEO of Cabka, a publicly listed circular plastics company in Amsterdam. He started inside the business as an entrepreneur and eventually grew into leading the whole organization as it expanded globally. His work sits at the intersection of manufacturing, supply chains, and capital markets. But today, the situation is very different. He is stuck, was stuck, we can say, because you've just gotten back from Abu Dhabi, and you're back in Amsterdam. But he was stuck in Abu Dhabi due to the airspace closures, trying to run the company remotely while customers, employees, and even family expectations keep moving. So tell me, now that you're back, why don't you let our listeners know what situation you were in?
First of all, thank you, Michael, for having me. And the situation was quite simple. I was on a business trip to India, Mumbai, and I had a flight from Mumbai to Amsterdam connecting in Abu Dhabi. Simply put, I landed in Abu Dhabi, and I probably received 150 messages on my WhatsApp like the hell break loose, which was actually very quite the situation, I would say, because obviously all the flights got cancelled the same morning. People running in the airport, people are just getting stuck. Bottom line, I have to say that because it's a connection flight, the air carrier did take care of us, so they moved us to an hotel. But then all the airspace got closed, so all the flights.
When did you realize that this was not going to be a short delay, but something that would last some time?
Well, once you open the news, you understand there is a war going on. And the last war, I think, was 12 days. So you understand that this time it's not going to be probably less than that because it was combined Israeli forces with the U.S. coming in. And the scariest thing was that you actually got the Emirates involved in the situation, something that I don't believe was the last time at all. And at the beginning, I had the faith that actually I will be able to just continue somewhere. But I think in about 2 or 3 hours, I understood it will take a day or three. I couldn't yet believe that the Emirates would close their airspace so completely for so many days, because I think it's the last time Emirates operated very freely. But the sooner they moved us to the hotel, I think by midday, it was already obvious that it's not going to happen in the next 2 days. I booked immediately one flight for the 3rd of March, hoping, because it was still available for sale. So I just bought another ticket for 3rd of March. That one obviously got cancelled. Then I booked another flight for the 4th of March. That was also got cancelled. So I bought like 2 tickets in a row. Both of them got cancelled. And eventually they said, there's no flight to Amsterdam. You can just replace with a barcode where you want to go. We might have a flight for you. There was a choice between Munich, Milan, and something else. And eventually I landed in Barcelona yesterday. So it was funny, but that was the only flight they got me booked in. So, but it was obviously clear to, I think, me and a lot of people in the hotel, because most of the hotel were people like me got stuck.
Sure.
And
when you realized that you were stuck, what was the first decision that you had to make that was vital?
I think it was, there is one personal related one, which is how do I manage my family within that situation. I wouldn't go into much details, but I had to make sure that those arrangements are being done. And second one was probably work related. I had a very important meeting happening on Wednesday in Cologne with people flying in from the United States, commitments, and it's a big customer. And I understood that's not going to happen. I very obvious was that I'm not going to reach Cologne by Wednesday. So I immediately asked to dismiss that meeting or to postpone it. That was one. And the other one was also work related, I would say. And that has to do to check all the policies within our company, regarding extreme situations. So I wanted to make sure we are good with safety measures if something happens. I wanted to make sure we are hedged properly in terms of oil prices and things like this. So those are work-related stuff.
Sure. You travel quite a bit, but how is this time different than other times? Because you will often leave the company for a few days, but now this was different.
I don't think it's about the location or whether you work remotely or not. I think it's the combination of the three. You have complete uncertainty about what's going to happen. What is the schedule of the next 2 weeks going to look like? Just an example, I have a roadshow in London next week. Meetings are set. What are we doing? Things like that. So there's complete uncertainty around your agenda, obviously part of the company agenda, and also your personal agenda, which has to do with your family. That uncertainty combined with what the company is going through. And it doesn't matter whether there is a crisis in the company on one side or everything is going fine, but there's always things to be done. And commitments, like attending commitments, if it's a customer meeting or business reviews or even just birthday to attend of a very good friend. Those simple things. Sure. I think the combination of that uncertainty and, I think the most important element is you finally find yourself not in control of the rhythm of what you need to do. You know what you need to do. You know that your company is in good hands. You know also, and that's also a good point, to verify whether your management team have the competencies to run the company, even if tomorrow you don't have connection. Because one of the things that ran into my mind was, all right, now we have Wi-Fi and the hotel is fine, but also if tomorrow they'll hit the 5G cellular station, there is no communication. What happens there? And you don't think of it before you get into the spot. Because one of the things that happened in Abu Dhabi is, I think Abu Dhabi is not equipped with, sirens and things like this. So you don't have a lot of notification about what's happening. You just hear the booms.
This would be a good moment to recap what is actually happening in Alexander's life right now. The war in Iran has commenced, and he is stranded in Abu Dhabi with no clear idea of when or how he will be able to return home to his family. For now, he still has an internet connection, but how long will that last? That is not a dramatic question. It is a practical and deeply relevant one. Anyone who has lived through a catastrophic situation knows how fragile everything can suddenly feel, especially the ability to stay in contact with people you love and to remain connected to your business when the normal systems begin to break down. His account reminds me of arriving at my hotel in Phuket the day after Christmas in 2004 and being greeted by a tsunami just as I arrived at my beachfront hotel. You simply don't know if you will be cut off from food and water, never mind internet, for a day, a week, or even longer.
And one thing that you'll understand is, okay, let's say, not even about something hidden in the hotel, just communication at different reasons. Does the company have the right protocols to run? without you approving a PO for $1.5 million or without your interference in the project. How compatible is your team to run this big machine without you?
And so did your team pass the test at 100%, or were there things that you think that you're going to work on in the future?
You always need to put things to a test. And that was a good test. Whether everyone scored 100, no, that would be a lie. But there is always things to improve. And I think specifically in terms of procedures, it's not about even the people. I think the people are very much equipped to do the work. The question is, do they feel the freedom, and do they have the back, or do they feel secure enough to take a decision without CEO being online?
That is not an easy thing to pressure test, but it is not impossible to gauge. Even a relatively simple survey could give you a useful indication of how ready your executive team would be able to manage while you are incapacitated. Yet how many organizations have actually done that?
What surprised you in a good way?
What surprised me in a good way? I think what surprised me that in terms of business, the business runs. So no one's is panicking. And I like it. I like that the people are not in panic. So that surprised me. So people are worried about you, but they're not in panic. No one is going into some kind of a distress. No one disconnects. No one, that I think is very important. I also like the fact that people do not feel dependent, and don't call you every second time is, are you okay? Are you okay? Actually, I think the normal behavior under pressure circumstances creates stability.
Let's think about that. Normal behavior under pressured circumstances creates stability. In other words, if Alexander's team can continue to operate with disciplined, predictable judgment while he is out of contact, the business becomes far less dependent on his constant availability. His absence may create pressure, but it should not create paralysis.
Because if everyone is going to panic, then that's what the company is going to be busy about. The CEO is stuck, the CEO is stuck. That didn't happen. Actually, I was happy. Most of the people even didn't know I was stuck. And that made me happy. Because that means it didn't cascade down, which is perfect. You don't want it to cascade down. You don't want the company to be busy with what happened. You want the company to run. And then by now, by the way, most of the people in the company don't even know that, which is beautiful.
Well, is there another side to that? Maybe is there the feeling that, hey, maybe they don't realize what I do for this company?
Yeah, well, I think the people appreciate stability more than ever. And I think even if you tell them, okay, there is a situation. If there is no good reason to worry, then why? Why would you do that? Everyone has the TV and everyone can read the news. But that's about it. I wouldn't say everyone needs to be worried about what's going to happen.
If the situation had gone on for 2 or 3 more weeks and you couldn't get back and you were still cut off, what do you think would have broken first?
What would have broken first? Probably the webcast of our financials that happened this Thursday. So we were scheduled to publish our end year 2025 results on Thursday.
What time?
Press release and then the webcast. It was scheduled for Thursday. That's the first time it would be cancelled because I did it from the hotel in Barcelona. I've landed, went to the hotel, and we made the webcast. Wow. So that would be probably the first thing that we would have delayed. And it's never a good thing or never a good sign to delay webcast of your end year results, especially if they are good.
Yeah.
So that would probably the first disruption that would have happened. I would say probably the next disruption would have happened into minor day-to-day things and mainly around approvals. So people are hesitant sometimes to approve budgets. That has to do with money. I think the day-to-day, the manufacturing, production of pallets, shipping customers, that would be 100% right. I think what would be delayed is CapEx approvals, those kinds of things. Contract signing, which can hurt, by the way, the company, because if you don't sign them on time, you lose sales. We have one situation like this.
And I'm just thinking that in this case, it was a delay due to travel, but we all get sick.
Yes.
There are other problems that can come up. Do you believe that you probably haven't had time to really digest all of this and think, but do you think you might put some time into thinking about what do I do the next time something like this happens? Should we have some sort of a contingency plan to help people know that, hey, make those decisions if I'm not here? And also, how long do they wait before they make those decisions?
It's obviously it went through my mind. And the first thing that came to my mind, that designated survivor thing. That's the first one that hit me. And even there is I think a Netflix something like that about.
Yeah.
Mr. Secretary, you need to put the phone down.
Mike, what the hell is going on?
I said put the phone down.
Mike, please, just tell us what you know.
Capitol's been attacked. Congress. Cabinet. Eagle is gone.
And it repeatedly came to my mind because when I boarded the plane to Barcelona, the first thing is goes to, what if it would be shut down? Can happen,
Oh, sure.
Friendly fire, whatever.
And
So you need to
there was friendly fire from Kuwait, right? So
right, exactly. And that was like probably the third time in those 4 days that I thought about, you need to have a designated survivor. Someone that if communication is out, whatever happens, have the authority and the wording to say yes, no, sign documents, whatever. And not only professionally, I was also thinking privately. Who decides of what happens to your children, X, Y, things like that. And a lot of things we, as private people, we delay. That has to do with our end of life, I would call it, because it's kind of, to be very honest, those things come to your mind when you're in a situation like this.
well, and they should, because there's a very important statistic that I think a lot of people don't know about, and that is that 25% of all people die before the age of 65.
Thank you, Mike.
So maybe, well, sorry to bring up such a morbid statement, but it is an important thing to talk about, and people should be planning.
Exactly. And this is also, that has nothing to do with business. It's really personal stuff that you understand that you need to spend time actually to take care of those things. So if the people that are part of your family would need to deal with it after whatever situation you are in. And I would say that's a private thinking. I'll take care of it in a better way in the next couple of
So
weeks.
do you think this shuffled some papers for you in your mind, and now you're thinking, I'm going to take care of a few things that I have been putting off because I want to shape that better?
Absolutely. 100%. Even more than that. And it has to do with, I think, three main things. One is obviously your children and your family, your parents are still alive, and obviously work-related. Especially when the company is listed, you would like to have that settled, and you would like to have the right procedures in place.
Sounds like you have some homework to do.
Oh yeah,
regarding
I
that.
do. I do have some homework to do. And let's be honest, also when you, as we talked about before, and that may be very much related, you still understand that the people who work for you in your close management team, we are 80% there, but we still have 20 to go to make sure that people feel independent enough and empowered to make the right decisions, and empowered up front.
Yeah.
Which is both on them and on me. Because in those situations, you understand that you probably do not empower them enough in your day-to-day life if they still depend on certain questions.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking there is a little bit of an analogy here with overcoming an illness. You become more aware of certain parts of your life that you should be thinking of. And how do we spark that without major events like that?
$1 million question. I'm not sure I'm the person to answer this, as as you know, and you know me also a bit, it's a bit hectic, the way you run your life between family and work. You don't stop to think. And those moments happen while you're stuck in Dubai, and even, maybe we need to have some more time, or me time, I would call it, to think about those things.
Alexander calls it me time. In my previous podcast, I mentioned what one of my clients called it, looking out the window. Different language, same instinct. There is clearly a deep yearning for this kind of reflective space, and yet there is also an enormous resistance to making room for it. My take is that most executives, and probably most people, are reluctant to invest in me time because the ROI is not immediately visible. You cannot put it neatly into a quarterly dashboard. You cannot always prove in advance what one quiet hour will produce. And yet, somewhere below the surface, we know the benefits are enormous. Better judgment, better emotional regulation, better pattern recognition, better decisions. The irony is that people who claim they do not have the time to reflect are often the ones whose decisions are most expensive when they get them wrong.
Because while I was there, for example, there's a time difference. So you wake up, everyone are asleep in Europe, but you still wake up at 6, right? So you start your day early, you do things, but then you are in meetings the whole day. There is still Wi-Fi, all works, thanks God. You end up late, and you understand that you need to breathe some air.
Mm-hmm.
So you go for that walk for an hour or a run, whatever it is. But you have different things to think about when you're in a situation, rather than you do it in your day-to-day life. Because if you go running now outside, all I'm thinking is writing emails.
Mm-hmm.
And all I'm thinking is what's the next project we're going to win. But this time you go for a walk, and all you think about is how do you spend more quality time with your family? How do you cherish? One thing that highlighted me the most is how do you spend more time with your parents?
Where are your parents?
My parents are in Israel, which is double down, another situation.
When Alexander mentions that his parents are in Israel, he says, which is double down. What he means is that a situation already difficult by any standard becomes doubly troubling because his parents are so close to the epicenter of the conflict. I felt sincere empathy for Alexander from the beginning of the interview as a father and leader caught in an intensely uncertain moment. But at this point in the conversation, I begin to sense that I was only just starting to understand the real depth of the situation.
That was one of the things that was constantly in my mind. I don't see my parents much. Twice a year, let's say. Once a year. And none of them is getting younger, right? Am I doing the right thing by not investing more time or not spending more time with my folks? Because there might be a situation you cannot fly in and just see them. Because today, it's usually very easy. I book up a flight, I go to Israel for a few days, my mom comes over, my father comes. It's easy.
Yeah.
And this is very personal, but to me, if I need to think about something about myself, is how do I spend more time with my parents?
Yeah. Well, these are very value-based questions that we have for ourselves. And the question is, do we stop the chaos in life and listen to our inner thoughts about what is really important to me? Am I true to that, or am I true to the game?
Yeah. I think it's a balance. And the balance needs to be right. Are we always balanced? The answer, to me, I know it's not. It's not always balanced. But we should always try and balance it. And those situations in your life, like injuries, like you said before, they kind of make you just hold on for a second and say, okay, maybe I've stretched too much my body. Maybe those hours that you miss sleep or your sleep deficit is too much.
Yeah, and I think, stopping and thinking about those things are very important. And at the same time, executing on them is the next step, right? Because it's one thing to stop and say, I should be doing this instead of that. And then you kind of go on with life without having made any changes.
Yeah, I would say it's not even executing. It's because the immediate execution is going to be there. So short term, you're going to execute. Follow up on that. That's the challenge.
Execution is not a thing unto itself. Execution without leadership is like a ship with a powerful engine, but no rudder. It can move fast, consume enormous energy, and look impressive from a distance, but without direction and correction, speed alone becomes a liability.
Because what's going to happen next? Okay, you set up something came up from work, an important meeting, important customer. What do you sacrifice first? You sacrifice person, 100%. Because it's an important meeting, you need to fly to the US. That's a customer, that goes first. And this is where the follow-up needs to happen. And I don't have a good answer for that, I'll be honest. I'm not sure I figured it out myself.
Perhaps not. At the same time, it is something to ponder. It is the life challenge that many executives have. Is it the birthday party, or is it the meeting? Is it the anniversary, or is it the meeting? Is it that vacation, or is it taking care of an emergency? These are tough questions, and there is not necessarily a right answer, but there is an answer that makes sense from perspective. And it is from the place of perspective that we learn whether or not we made the right choice. And so without challenging ourselves on those points, we tend to glide through life.
Oh, yes. It's easier not to challenge yourself.
Mm-hmm. I think we pay for it no matter what, right?
Yeah.
We go to the meeting, we pay for it.
100%. You pay for it, we all paid.
Yeah.
I paid for it, I can say I'm a happily divorced person, but you pay for it.
Alexander makes an interesting distinction here. He is not yet sure whether the real shift is to delegate more or to trust more. The difference matters. Delegation is something we are taught to do as managers. Trust is something we learn to practice as leaders. It is exponentially more powerful, and precisely for that reason, it also carries greater risk.
Sometimes urgency trumps importance, and we're not aware of that. It's a really tough challenge, and really tough for everybody to gather themselves when something is urgent and say, hey, this is urgent, this needs to happen right now, but it is eclipsing something that's really important for me. What do I do? Is it on a par with the other thing, or is it clearly important and urgent? So we go back to that quadrant idea, right?
I tend to say it a lot at my workplace. Importantly is urgent, because that really is a very good question also at work. Is it important or urgent? Do we need to talk about it now, or we need to talk about it next week? Things are really urgent. They just block your calendar. They just happen.
And it takes away the decision making. The decision is made for us. Whereas when something is important, you have to push away urgent matters in order to take care of those things, because we always have urgent matters every day. And so how do we make room for the important things if everything is urgent? I think that's maybe the toughest thing for you as a leader. Do you agree?
Oh, 100%. Because even if you plan, let's say, the important stuff over the next, let's say your calendar 3 weeks ahead, it's not blocked full because you understand that things are going to happen. But when you look at it on Sunday evening, it's complete. How can it be? Because things become urgent. And what we need all to learn how to empower people to do more. Because then the urgency is split around, your management stuff. So, and delegation is a very complicated thing for people, and I admit for people like me who are freak controls. Mm-hmm. It's a difficult thing because you always want to be in the control of everything happens. And this is why the situation in Abu Dhabi, it kind of lifted the control out of, it's boom, you are suddenly not in control. The flight is tomorrow cancelled or cancelled, who knows? Are we going to have Wi-Fi tomorrow or are we not? And you're right, this is the most important thing. It is how you deal with it.
Do you think in some way that experience will help you delegate more?
Yes, I think so. I don't know if it will delegate rather than trust, because today you trust people, but because you want to be in control of things, you check, follow up, you want to make sure things are getting done according to what you believe it needs to be. And sometimes we fall into a trap, we included, that we not only control the result, which we should, because if the result is great, you don't need to control the process. It's fine. I try to follow always that if the result is not good enough, then you go and check the process. But we all fell in, at least myself, I fall into traps going and looking at the process, even if I don't know if the result is good or not. You just need to a little bit give away more if you trust the people.
Ever wish you could just talk to someone who's been where you are? Not a chatbot, not ChatGPT or Gemini. A real human who gets it. That's Peer Plaza. Human help. Instantly. Whether you need a career coach, a leadership mentor, or someone to help you navigate a tough transition, Peer Plaza connects you with vetted professionals ready to help right now. Browse profiles, watch intro videos, and book a session. Just like that. Visit peerplaza.com, because the best advice still comes from real people.
Just decide.
So trust includes forgiveness, because if you put your trust in somebody and they make an error, there is a certain amount of empathy and forgiveness involved in doing that. So it's not one muscle. It's not just trusting people, but also the follow-up to trust is very important.
Yes, you obviously need to give the space for error.
Is that the difficult part?
No. For me, not. You can, as long as you admit it, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
I don't like people hiding mistakes. But if you come and say, look, I've made that decision, wrong one. I'm sorry. That's fine.
Looking back at our conversation, the issue is more of a conundrum than our treatment of trust fully captures. The risk is not only that trust may be misplaced, but that it often takes time to realize it has been. It can take even longer to overcome the vulnerability involved in admitting disappointment, misjudgment, or failure. And that delay matters. The time needed to recognize and admit a mistake does not always align with the time available to correct it. Alexander, like every leader, will inevitably face situations where the timing works against the person who failed. The mistake may be admitted, but not soon enough. So when Alexander says, "As long as you admit it, I'm good with it," the real leadership question is, how much patience can that principle bear? Trust only works to the degree that the leader understands the mechanics of admitting failure and has the extra margin to allow that process to unfold instead of putting someone on the stand.
I have less patience for waiting for that answer. So patience is not my strong side.
Mm-hmm.
And actually not deciding and waiting is worse than you having a decision and getting it wrong.
Do you think that's an advantage?
I think you need to ask my people. But
no, you need to ask your people about that.
I'm not so sure I would say it's an advantage. I think I would like to have more patience from time to time. I think I wouldn't say it's an advantage to be constantly impatient. Sometimes you need to be more patient.
Is it wanting to have more patience or wanting to have better behavior when you're feeling impatient?
Yeah, you imply that my behavior changes when I'm impatient. I think I'm much better in it than I used to be 15 years ago. Much better. I'm not getting nuts. Maybe I'm getting a little bit more demanding. But I wouldn't say it's on a level that someone will get offended or hurt. I never talk disrespectfully to people. But yes, obviously you can understand from my voice that I'm expecting it to get done sooner. Can I improve my communication skills? I would say not even behavior. I would even file it down. Can I improve my communication skills? Well, I'm impatient. Yes. I can. I should. Not that I can, I should.
How about I will? It's so important that people understand what your expectations are. And I think it sounds to me like you are pretty good at letting people know what those expectations are.
I think you've just hit a point that I probably need to improve the most at myself. And that has to be and that comes back to communication. I do find myself probably not communicating well enough what my expectations are, because they are here.
Now, for all of you in podcast land where you can't see us speaking, when Alexander says, "because they are here," he points to his head. And isn't that true for many of us who hold high expectations of our teams and even our family members? We assume our expectations are clear because they're clear to us. Yet when we examine what we have actually communicated, it is often far removed from what is happening in our minds. The heuristic is simple. If we agreed on expectations and you fail to follow through, well, shame on you. But if I have not communicated those expectations clearly, shame on me. My guess is that expectations often remain unspoken not because they are unimportant, but because communicating them properly takes work. It takes time to scope a project. It takes time to explain what success looks like. It takes time to define priorities, constraints, standards, and ownership. And too often, we would rather move on to the next thing than slow down long enough to make the invisible visible.
But you need to translate them. And the thing is, you need to translate them to different profile of people. Because everyone listens differently.
This is such an important point that you're making right now. It takes time, it takes energy.
Yes.
It takes real thought to do that. But mastering that is pretty amazing.
Exactly, and that's what I'm constantly working on, because you need to know the people you're talking to, how you deliver them, the expectations, so they will understand what you really want. Some people, it can be a good email, a long email that takes you an hour to write. Some people, it's a 2-minute conversation. It really depends on what kind of a profile is the person in front of you. And I don't think there is a mastering to it. I think it's a continuous learning, because the other side of that chessboard are people, and everyone are moving differently or triggered differently. So can I get better in that? Yes. The answer is always yes.
How will AI solve that problem?
Oof. Come on. We're talking AI now. I probably think, the only way I see AI helping in it is AI, if you don't train it, treats everyone the same. Yeah. But if you take AI and you start prompting and saying, I want to deliver a message to Michael, who is, to my opinion, blah, blah, blah. And then you set up how you profile that person to AI. And you say, what is the best way to deliver dismissal? Okay, just let's go.
Yeah.
To the person like this, and then but you actually sit down and invest time in that prompt. You might get an answer, which is better than one fits it all.
So it's so interesting, isn't it, that's basically the direction that the technological world is going in everything, where we're trying to please the individual so that everything becomes normalized to that person. Think about a feed, for instance, in Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media. Yeah. You're bombarded with the news that you want to see. You're bombarded with the advertisements that you want to see according to your algorithm. And now we're talking about sending messages that are tailored to that person. I'm just wondering what the back end of that is. One of my employees said to me, we become snowflakes. Do you know that term? Snowflakes? So that anything that is not tailored to our needs, we react to. It's interesting, isn't it?
It is very interesting. And I have to say, at least on the social media, it is very annoying. For me, it's very annoying. This is why I also, for example, closed the Instagram account. Because what's in there that I don't know?
Yeah.
I'm not a heavy social media user, don't use anything. But even when I had Instagram, it still saves you 15 minutes a day. At least.
Oh,
so it's a great time.
When I realized that I was spending 5 minutes a day in Facebook many, many years ago, I calculated how much time that was
a year.
Per month. I think it was like an hour and a half. I think an hour and a half per month alone. And that's nothing compared to what people are spending, right? Spending nine hours a day. Most children are spending that much time on social media. So it is. Look, even news. I read the New York Times. I read El País here. And I try not to spend too much time. I read the headlines. I know what's going on. I know the price of gold. And I try to stay away from all of that stuff because I have work to do. I have other priorities. 5 minutes of this is 5 minutes less spending time with my wife. That kind of thing.
You're asking all the right questions. I'm not sure, we all have kids. My kids have time limit, which they're not happy with. Don't get me wrong. He is never happy with the time limit.
It's unfair.
It's unfair. But, I'm always trying, at least with kids, when I closed Instagram, I actually showed it to him. And I said, look, I'm doing the same because I don't think this is the right thing to do. Yeah. Will that help? No, but I'm trying. But into your
sounds like you're protecting your kids. You're being a parent. Right?
Yeah, I'm trying to be a good parent, and I always say we'll only know it in 20 years. And when they're 30, we'll know how good it was. The children are living in a completely different world today. It's we can talk quite more hours.
Another subject.
It's a completely
this sounds like a great time to thank you, Alexander, for a wonderful talk.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the subject matter that we got into, and I really appreciate your frankness and openness in our discussion today.
Always.
And I hope I get a chance to speak with you soon.
Thank you, Michael. Anytime.
I want to thank Alexander Masharov for bringing such honesty to this conversation. You gave us a powerful reminder that leadership is not only about delegation or execution, but about trust, clarity, vulnerability, and the patience required when people are learning to own both success and failure. Thanks to my guest and to all of our loyal listeners. Subscribe today so you don't miss upcoming conversations. And if you found this podcast valuable, please leave a review. It helps others discover the show and keeps the dialogue growing. For more information about Scale U and Scale U retreats, go to scaleu.org, where you can find the full library of podcasts, blogs, and additional resources. Thanks for listening. See you next time.